Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something right now. In every relationship, in every love story, in every connection between a man and a woman, there is one thing that carries more power than charm, beauty, or even time together. It's a boundary, a single powerful self-respecting boundary that makes a man realize, hold on, this woman is different. And when she holds that line, when she stands firm in who she is and what she deserves, that man feels her absence, her value, her presence. Every single day, a man misses a woman who protects her self-respect with firm boundaries, because that boundary becomes the very pulse of her value. When a woman understands who she is, what she brings, and what she deserves, she carries a quiet strength that a man feels even when she's not in the room. Self-respect is not loud. It is not demanding. It does not have to announce itself. It shows up in how she speaks, how she responds, how she prioritizes her peace, and how she refuses to compromise. The core of who she is just to please someone else. That kind of woman becomes unforgettable because she is not shaped by a man's whims, attention, or absence. She stands firm, and that firmness creates the exact distance that makes a man realize what he stands to lose. Most men aren't used to a woman who keeps a standard. They aren't used to a woman who can smile, be loving, be supportive, but still have a line that says, you can come close, but only if you come correctly. Often, men encounter women who bend their values just to keep the relationship intact. A man may respect you, care about you, enjoy you, but if he sees that you don't respect yourself, he will feel comfortable taking you for granted. But the moment he meets a woman who refuses to do that, who refuses to shrink herself, who refuses to allow disrespect, even if she loves him deeply, that woman stands out in a way that he will think about long after she's gone. Self-respect sets the tone for every interaction. It tells a man how to love you without you ever having to lecture him. When you have clear boundaries, you don't argue, you don't beg, you don't try to convince him of your worth. You simply act. You step back when you need to. You say no when your heart wants to say yes, but your spirit knows better. That discipline, that strength, that courage, it makes him understand that your presence is a privilege and not a guarantee. And that realization plants the seed of longing. A man starts missing you the moment he realizes your life doesn't revolve around him. When he sees that you can care but still walk away from behavior that hurts you. When he understands that your world continues whether he shows up or not. That's when your boundaries become unforgettable, because he now knows you're not afraid of losing him. You're only afraid of losing yourself. And that is the kind of woman a man thinks about every day, not because she abandoned him, not because she punished him, but because she honored herself so deeply that it forces him to rise up or fall back. He misses the way a self-respecting woman makes him feel. She challenges him without tearing him down. She loves him without losing herself. She gives without emptying her soul. And she never sacrifices her standards just to keep a moment alive. A man misses a woman like that because she shows him the rare combination of softness and strength. She becomes the echo in his mind, the reminder of what a real woman feels like, the example he can't forget. And that one boundary she holds onto, rooted in her self-worth, is the very boundary that makes him miss her every single day. Over giving too early kills attraction because it creates an imbalance that removes the natural rhythm, mystery, and space that relationships need to grow. When a woman rushes in with all her energy, attention, affection, and availability before a man has earned it, she unintentionally sends the message that he doesn't have to try. Men are wired to value what they invest in. If he hasn't invested emotionally, mentally, or spiritually, then giving him everything up front won't make him appreciate you. It will make him comfortable, and comfort without effort turns into complacency. He stops pursuing, stops wondering, stops thinking deeply because he never had to rise to meet your level of effort in the first place. And when effort becomes one-sided, attraction begins to fade. A lot of women overgive because they're loving, they're nurturing. They want to show a man what they feel. But intention doesn't change the outcome. If you give too much before a foundation is built, a man doesn't see those actions as rare or special. He sees them as expected. And once something becomes expected, it is no longer valued. This is why many women feel confused when they pour out their heart, support a man, show up consistently, give him their time and energy, but instead of drawing him closer, he starts drifting away. It's not because he didn't care. It's because there was no space left for him to step in and show you how much he cared. Balanced space creates desire because it allows a man to feel the natural pull of missing you, wondering about you, thinking of you, and stepping up on his own. When you don't rush to fill every silence, when you don't immediately respond, when you don't rearrange your life the moment he calls, you give the relationship room to breathe. You give him the experience of noticing your absence in small ways, the pause before the reply. The day you focus on yourself, the time he doesn't hear from you and realizes he actually wants to. That feeling of, where is she? What is she doing? Why do I miss her? Is what builds attraction. People crave what feels equal, mutual, and earned. When you hold back just enough to let a man show his intentions, he gets to feel proud of pursuing you. He gets to feel connected because he is choosing, not just receiving. And you get to see his real interest, not the interest he shows, because you're carrying the entire emotional load. Balanced space also protects your heart. It prevents you from giving everything to someone who hasn't shown you who he truly is yet. It lets you observe instead of assuming. It lets you respond instead of reacting. It gives you clarity instead of attachment. Overgiving too early is not generosity, it's fear. It's the fear of losing him, fear of not being enough, fear of him choosing someone else. But balanced space comes from confidence. It says, I want you, but I don't need to rush. If you're meant to be here, your effort will show. And that energy, that balance, that self-assuredness creates a powerful attraction that keeps a man drawn to you, not because he's overwhelmed, but because he's intrigued, engaged, and genuinely invested. Boundaries teach a man how to treat you without you ever having to raise your voice, because they communicate your worth more clearly than any speech, argument, or explanation ever could. A boundary is not about controlling someone else. It is about controlling how you allow yourself to be treated. When a woman sets a boundary, she isn't trying to change a man. She's showing him the standard he must meet if he wants access to her love, her presence, and her energy. And men respond to standards far more than they respond to pressure. Pressure makes a man defensive. Standards make a man attentive. When he sees that your boundaries are rooted in self-respect rather than anger, he becomes more aware of his actions, more intentional with his effort, and more careful with how he shows up for you. A boundary doesn't require harsh words or emotional outbursts. It can be as simple as choosing not to engage in disrespect, refusing to tolerate inconsistency, not responding to behavior that drains your peace, or stepping back when a man crosses a line you've clearly set. You don't need to explain that you deserve better. You simply show it through your actions. When a man sees a woman who doesn't negotiate her self-worth, he begins to understand that her love is something he has to honor, not something he can just take for granted. That realization changes how he moves around her. He becomes more thoughtful, more intentional, more accountable, because he knows she is not a woman who stays regardless of how she is treated. Men learn through experience. When a woman allows disrespect, excuses bad behavior, or lets him slide every time he falls short, he learns that she accepts those things, not because she deserves them, but because she allowed them. And people will always repeat what you allow. But when a woman sets a boundary early and consistently, when she doesn't tolerate mixed signals, inconsistency, emotional laziness, or half efforts, a man immediately understands that she is different. She isn't needy. She isn't desperate. She isn't afraid of losing him. She values herself too much to settle for anything less than respect. A boundary is the clearest communication you can give. It's not emotional, it's logical. It doesn't threaten, it states. It doesn't beg, it expects. Instead of saying, treat me right, your boundary says, this is the level of behavior I accept. Anything less, and I remove myself, and that action is far louder than any message you could send. A man respects what he cannot manipulate. He respects what doesn't fold under pressure. He respects what he has to rise up to meet. And when he knows that your boundaries are not punishments, but expressions of your self-worth, he begins to mirror that respect back to you. A woman with boundaries teaches a man the difference between access and intimacy, between attention and effort, between wanting him and accepting his excuses. She teaches him that love isn't about control, it's about mutual respect. And when a woman carries herself with that kind of strength, her silence becomes powerful, her presence becomes valuable, and her absence becomes unforgettable. That is why boundaries teach a man how to treat you long before you ever need to say a word. When you stop chasing and start choosing yourself, he feels your absence in a way that reaches deeper than silence, deeper than distance, deeper than anything you could ever say out loud. A man knows when a woman has shifted her energy. He knows when her attention is no longer centered on him, but on her own peace, her own growth, her own life. And that change shakes him because men are used to being pursued more than they admit. When a woman pulls back not out of spite, not out of games, but out of self-respect, it sends a message that touches his ego, his mind, and his heart all at once. She's not waiting on me anymore. Choosing yourself is not abandonment. It is alignment. It is realizing that your life cannot revolve around someone who refuses to rotate with you. It is understanding that you cannot keep pouring into someone who shows up half-hearted, inconsistent, or only when it benefits them. When a woman chooses herself, she stops explaining what she deserves and starts living in a way that demands it. Her actions shift, her priorities shift, her energy shifts. She focuses on her goals, her peace, her healing, her joy. And when that happens, a man begins to notice the space she once filled with her effort, her messages, her reminders, her care, and that absence hits him with a clarity he didn't expect. Men don't feel the impact of a woman's presence until she removes it. They don't feel the weight of her loyalty until it's no longer freely offered. They don't understand the comfort of her effort until they're no longer surrounded by it. When a woman stops chasing, she stops feeding the connection more than he does. And that is when he has to meet her halfway or lose her completely. The moment he sees her